Hi, Kim. How do you help a partner better understand your depression and anxiety when that is not something that they experience in their own lives?
Hi, Kim. Me and my partner would like some advice on how to communicate little domestic annoyances.
What should people do if they both say they want to work it out, but they don't succeed and keep breaking up?
Hello, and welcome to Engineering Love, a podcast about relationships. I'm your host, Kim Pullender, and I'm a relationship coach, soon to be licensed therapist in Southern California. People always ask me if it's difficult to listen to couples who fight all day long. And my answer is that I love my job. More specifically, I love solving problems. Before running my coaching practice full-time, I spent many years as an IT systems engineer for a Fortune 500 company. Engineering and psychotherapy, in my mind, are very similar in that they both strive to find root cause. What is the root of the problem from which all other problems are tied to? For my entire life, I've been fascinated with the human mind and personalities. I love a good personality test, such as Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. At some point in my life, I was very curious about astrology and numerology and how it could break down a personality structure. And in all my dabbling, I was ultimately interested in the root cause of suffering. I feel like all my years as an IT engineer prepared me to be an effective couples counselor. The way I see it, my systematic approach to problems has helped me bring a balance of both logic and empathy to the process of healing emotional pain. This past year, I started sharing things on social media that I thought might be helpful to you all in empowering you to solve your own problems in your relationships. And many of you had told me how helpful my videos are, but I can tell that it's not complete for many of you who are taking the work seriously. And it's frustrating for me to try to fit helpful advice into 90 seconds. Based on your comments and questions, the videos resonate, but many of you are unsure of what to do next. I'm hoping that this podcast and my eventual online courses will give you more options for those of you who want to dig a little deeper. The name of this podcast, Engineering Love, suggests that love is something we can manufacture, design, or build. The opposite of this idea, promoted in every rom-com ever. By the way, I love a good rom-com and would be lost without them in my world. I'm not criticizing rom-coms. But the idea is that love is something that just randomly happens to us in the rain without any training necessary, and love should just be natural without any work, which is ridiculous. We need to be taught everything in life. No one pops out of the womb knowing how to bake a cake or explain particle physics. Similarly, none of us were born knowing how to communicate, process trauma, rebuild a sense of self after heartbreak, or communicate our needs to a loved one. Instead, we're left to just figure it out based on what we saw our parents do or what our friends tell us to do, and then it turns into the blind leading the blind, creating unhealthy, frustrating relationship patterns, or perpetuating cycles of abuse. This podcast is intended to be an educational tool to help you learn how to be self-aware so that you can change your undesirable patterns and learn how to advocate for your needs. Knowledge is power. Once you can start to put the pieces together of how you're wired, what you need, validating your needs, and how to express those needs, you'll feel much less crazy and broken. You are not broken. You are just conditioned. Once you understand how you're conditioned, you can then start to recondition yourself to think differently, which will then allow you to feel differently, which then allows you to act differently and make better choices in life. So thank you for clicking on that link and listening to this podcast. I appreciate all of you who have followed me on social media with so many heartfelt messages of gratitude and support. I read all of your messages and comments, and I also appreciate how many of you support each other through really difficult situations. We're building a wonderful community together, and I want to be as helpful as I can to you, so please keep the comments and questions coming in, And if you want your question to be on a future episode, there's a link in the bio to submit recordings to the show. A big thank you to all of you who took the time and courage to record a question, and let's get to a few of those questions now.
Hi, Kim. Thanks so much for opening the space for us to ask questions. I'm super excited about your new podcast and very thankful for the work that you and your team do. It has helped my partner and I a lot in our relationship. My question's surrounding mental health. How do you help a partner better understand your depression and anxiety when that is not something that they experience in their own lives? That's my question. If you have any advice or communication skills for either partner, love to hear that. Again, thank you so much, and looking forward to hearing from you on your podcast.
This is a great question, and it is a sentiment that I hear a lot from people. At the root of this question is the need to be understood. What you're feeling is that your partner doesn't understand you, right? Ultimately, what you're feeling is that you are not being shown enough empathy. So let's first break down the terms so that we're all on the same page. When it comes to helping someone through their pain, there are different levels of engagement, right? So you have pity. Pity is you feel bad for someone, but you don't really want to do anything to fix something. It's just kind of an emotional response to seeing someone suffering. Next step up would be sympathy. Now, sympathy, you're really feeling with someone. You want their suffering to end, actually. It causes you pain. But again, kind of related to pity, you don't necessarily want to get directly involved. You want their pain to end, but maybe if someone else could just come and take care of it, that would be great. Next up, if we're going to level up, we have empathy. Now, empathy is where you can put yourself in their shoes, walk a mile in their shoes, and feel their pain. Maybe you've been in their situation before and you can relate to them in that way. With empathy, you understand them. But, let's be clear, empathy doesn't mean you necessarily love them. If you take a sociopath, for example, they could empathize with victims in order to manipulate them, understand what that person is needing, and then jump in to then use that information in a negative way. But empathy at the root of it is you can think and feel what they're going through. Now, compassion would be the gold standard. This is the feeling of sympathy, the understanding of empathy, and the ability to understand someone, plus you have a desire to get directly involved. You want to help them. You want to do something to end their suffering. Now, the difference between empathy and compassion is compassion has a little bit of detachment, healthy detachment, so that you can help them out, so that you can do your job. Doctors, therapists, you have to be able to have a little bit of detachment in order to be able to help the person sitting across from you. Because if you just stay in empathy, jump down in that hole with them, I think this is horrible, I understand how you're feeling, and then you become crippled. Now both of you are sitting in that hole, and now you need a third person to help you out of that hole. So compassion is empathy, but with enough detachment where you can help them out. It's sustainable. It's a way you can live your life and help them, where you can throw yourself into the fray of what's happening in their life, into the suffering, and survive. So when it comes to a relationship, what people are seeking is for sure empathy. What is helpful is also compassion, either one of those two. At the heart of it, you want to be understood. So getting back to this question, how do you help a partner better understand your depression and anxiety when it's something they don't experience in their own lives? What I'm hearing in this question is that your partner is not demonstrating enough empathy. They're not demonstrating enough understanding. Now the question becomes, what are you looking for? I like to put the accountability back on the person who is bringing up the complaint. What do you need in this moment? What would prove to you that I understand what you're saying? What would prove to you that I have empathy for you? Now, sometimes people get squirrely about this when they're asked this, and no matter what the partner says, they'll keep saying, well, I just don't feel you feel the pain like I do. I just don't feel that you understand the depth of my emotions. Really look at what you're needing from your partner. Let's say I get hit by a bus and I look to my partner and say, you know what? You just don't understand what it feels like to be hit by a bus. You know what? I'm right. They don't understand. But what am I asking? Am I needing them to be hit by a bus in order? Will that prove to me that they understand me, that they can empathize with me, that they can support me? What I'm stating here is be clear about what you need from your partner and what is reasonable. If you dangle this carrot of, you've said to me that you understand, but you just don't feel it. Be careful of dangling that carrot of where your partner will never understand you, despite all of their trying. Put it on you for what you need from them to prove to you that they do understand you. Because sometimes people will resist support, will resist love and empathy and understanding because they're stuck in some narrative of being misunderstood. Perhaps you were misunderstood a lot as a child. Perhaps you had your emotional needs neglected as a child. And it's just inconceivable to you that someone would understand you. Inconceivable that someone would want to empathize with you and support you. And so you resist it. You find some way to find fault in whatever your partner is doing. And no matter what that partner does, there's just no way that they will understand you unless they themselves get hit by that bus. So figure out what you need as far as support goes and communicate that to your partner. For some, it's, I just need a hug right now. I just need you to listen to me without offering solutions. I need you to listen and not hear this as a threat or a complaint. Hear this just as me processing my pain. I need empathy from you to understand that if you grew up with my parents, my childhood, my environment, home environment growing up, that you can understand how I might struggle with depression, how I might struggle with anxiety. If I was never taught to believe in myself as a capable human being, that you can understand that I might suffer from anxiety and being overwhelmed. So when it comes to your partner better understanding you, figure out what your needs are. What does it look like for them to understand you? Ask what you need from them. And to the partner, learn empathy, learn mirroring exercises, reflective listening, learn to put solutions on the back burner and sit with your partner. You don't have to directly experience being hit by a bus to empathize with someone who has been hit by a bus. You don't have to directly experience depression and anxiety to be able to be empathetic and compassionate towards your partner who is experiencing these things. Validation of feelings is key. Thank you very much for your question.
Hi, Kim. Me and my partner would like some advice on how to communicate little domestic annoyances in a way that's equally fair to both parties. For instance, when my partner forgets to do a task or does it badly by my standards, or unintentionally does something that I don't like, he feels that it's unnecessary for me to mention it, because I should trust that he'll do better next time. But it's not easy for me to let go in that way, and over time resentment starts building up if I don't say anything. How should we try to resolve this? Thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
All right, let's talk house chores. I cannot tell you how many couples come to me and house chores is one of the first things they complain about, and one of the supposedly only things they argue about. Where I like to start is from a superficial level. If this is actually low-hanging fruit where we can just knock this out easily, let's do it. My first question is, have you come up with a formal list of how the house chores will be divvied up? In this list might be washing the dishes, who cooks, who cleans, loading the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher, vacuuming, cleaning the bathroom, laundry. My first question to couples would be, have you come up with this list? And it's kind of like a flow chart where, okay, if you haven't created a list, the first thing to do is create a list and then assign names. See how that works for a while. We go back to the flow chart. Have you created a list? Yes. Okay. How is that list going? Maybe once you create a list, assign names to the tasks, you will kind of be rolling along smoothly. Or maybe you create a list and assign the tasks and people are dropping the ball. Next step would be, what is the resistance to doing the chores? Now, again, this could be just a superficial level of, oh, I'm kind of forgetful, or I'm super busy. I'm working 12-hour days at the office. I just had a baby. The list goes on of really legitimate excuses. But if we're talking about a long-term pattern of resistance to these house chores that you agreed to do, by the way, the benefit of having it written down and assigning names is that you get accountability. Both parties have now agreed to this chores list, so it's kind of like an informal contract. So, if there's resistance to doing the chores, now you have this list, you agreed to do it, you're not following through. What is the resistance to chores? At a superficial level, it could be, like I said, those legitimate excuses, life gets busy. But if consistently over, a few months, 6 months, a year, you have resistance to these chores, when you repeatedly agree that, yes, I am going to do it, then something a little deeper is going on. Some questions I like to ask in those situations are, what is your relationship with authority figures? Do you like being told what to do? Most people don't. For the person who's complaining a lot, are you a person who likes control? And for both parties, do you have any sort of parent-child dynamic going on? Does your partner ever mother you or father you? Are you the parent? Are you the child? Does this dynamic play out in other areas of your life besides house chores? Now, if we go even deeper to what might be going on, it might not be about the chores at all. For the person complaining, a lot of times it's about being listened to, being acknowledged, being cared for, where someone doing chores somehow represents love and caring and support. For the partner who's kind of falling down on the job and not doing your chores, learn to develop empathy for your partner. Maybe you're with someone who has a great need and desire for order around the house, and it goes beyond just, they just like things clean and tidy. Perhaps clean and tidy and orderly is a need for them. It's a necessity where it's soothing to them. It calms their mind. It gives them peace. Perhaps they grew up in a home where there was a lot of volatility, a lot of things they couldn't control. So one of the few things they could control was cleaning. Or perhaps cleaning became a way of pleasing the parent, of bringing peace into the home, of preventing a parent from getting mad at them, from going off on them. So find out, what is the history behind this cleaning streak? For the person who's complaining, do you often feel taken advantage of? Do you feel taken for granted, perhaps unappreciated? Again, when we're going to deeper levels of the house chore battle, you're going to find that it's really not about the house chores. These are some questions you can ask about what's going on with you, what's going on with them, because more often than not, the person who's complaining frequently about the house chores has a deeper level of hurt going on. Similarly, the person who's resistant to doing the house chores most likely has something deeper going on as well when it comes to resistance and authority. When you live with someone, it's very difficult to find two people who have the exact same compatible level of tidiness and cleanliness. You can look back on your home growing up. How did you feel around cleanliness, around messiness? Was there some need that developed? Maybe perhaps your parent was really clean and tidy, and you just kind of modeled yourself after them. Look back upon your history with roommates. What was your experience like back then? Did you used to live with messy roommates and it really wasn't that big of a deal? And now you're living with a messy partner and it all of a sudden has become a big deal. It's probably not about the house chores. Cleanliness and tidiness is a very inherent thing. It's really part of your nature. People can change to some degree, perhaps being a little more easygoing about messiness around the house, perhaps being a little more easygoing about the way that your partner cleans the bathroom. But for the most part, this is a pretty inherent thing, and it can create a lot of inner turmoil, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, for people who have a lower threshold of pain. If you are the type who has a lower threshold of pain, when you're developing that house chores list, don't assign your partner the bathroom cleaning job if after they've cleaned the bathroom, it's in your mind a disaster and you just have to go back and clean up after them. Really come into acceptance and honesty about what kind of cleaner you are, what kind of cleaner your partner is, and develop a chores list that is going to set people up for success. Otherwise, you have the potential of getting into this dynamic where you constantly set your partner up for failure, where you know they're not going to clean the bathroom the way you like it. And then it turns into this little dance that you do of, did you clean the bathroom? Oh, you finally cleaned the bathroom? Oh, you cleaned the bathroom really poorly. And now that leads to this kind of superior-inferior dynamic. So when it comes to house chores, see if it is low-hanging fruit that you can just assign a chores list and move on with your lives. And if it's not, if the chores list doesn't work, then start to look at what is the resistance to chores. You don't like authority figures, being told what to do, control freaks, the parent-child dynamic. Maybe it's not about the chores at all. Maybe it's about being listened to, appreciated, acknowledged, a lack of empathy that you're feeling from your partner, which I'm pretty sure is going to be reflected in other areas of your relationship. So sit down and have some good talks and negotiations about what this chores list is going to look like and move forward and see where you land. Thanks very much for this very relatable question.
What should people do if they both say they want to work it out, but they don't succeed and keep breaking up?
This is a great question because it really speaks to the frustration and the pain of people who love each other dearly but just can't seem to work it out. The short answer to this question is, if you're serious about repairing the relationship and seeing if you can build a long-term future, get a professional involved. Find a therapist or a coach or perhaps a mentor in your life, a grandparent, someone older and wiser who you trust, and start to get some perspective, some outside perspective on the dynamic that's going on between you two. That's what you can do from a third-party perspective. From an internal perspective, you can start to ask yourself some probing questions, such as, what is it about your partner that you absolutely hate? What is it about them that you just cannot stand? What is it about them that keeps breaking up this relationship? And if they only change this one thing, or maybe one or two things, your relationship would be perfect. What is that? Now, when you get the answer to that question, maybe it's they're too selfish, they're too untrustworthy, they're too insensitive, they never listen to me, they're too clingy, up in my business, they're too detached, too avoidant. Whatever the answer is, ask yourself two questions. The first question is, okay, for what I just criticized them for, is this something that I also struggle with? Is this something that I kind of hate within myself and judge myself for? If it is, then you are 100% projecting onto your partner. The second question you can ask is, of those crimes that you just laid onto your partner, those judgments and criticisms, who from your past reminds you of this feeling? The way that your partner makes you feel in this relationship when you're having those downtimes and you break up, when you're feeling those downtimes, who from your past made you feel the same way? If you can come up with someone, maybe your mother, your father, a sibling, an ex perhaps, but usually it goes back further, father, mother, family member, then that's called transference, where your feelings about that person from the past are being transferred onto your partner. In both situations, there's an opportunity to do a lot of personal work. For the projections, it's kind of obvious where, okay, I'm judging this person for something that I totally struggle with myself, and it's just easier to lay it on them, project onto them, and criticize them and point the finger at them than to sit with it myself and realize that, oh, this is an opportunity for me to upgrade, develop more integrity, grow. Similarly, if it's transference that your partner is reminding you or making you feel like someone from the past made you feel, then figure out how it is that they make you feel. They make you feel stupid. They make you feel unattractive. They make you feel like you're neglected, that you're not worth spending time with, that you're not worth making an effort for. These are all opportunities to work on a sense of self, to work on your self-esteem, to start to build up your confidence. It's very important who we choose to associate with, whether that's friends or a romantic partner or whoever we spend time with in our personal lives. It's very important to surround yourself with, for lack of a better word, good people. Because we are communal beings. We are social mammals. We seek community. We seek connection. And when we are trying to fit in and be part of a community, be part of a relationship, a couple, we inevitably seek the validation, the affirmation of this community. We seek the acceptance, the approval of our partner. So you really want to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with reasonably decent people, because if you seek the approval of unhealthy people, you will become an unhealthy person. Whereas when you're surrounded with people who see the good in you rather than the bad in you, people who see you having a bad day, a petty moment, and say, wait a minute, this isn't you. You can do better than that. Versus people who see a petty moment or bad day and say, wow, you're just a piece of trash. Typical you. So we have a lot of choice in who we surround ourselves with, and it has a great impact on our self-esteem and our worthiness. I encourage you to choose wisely. So with regards to this question of what should people do when they want to work it out, are clearly in love, and don't succeed and keep breaking up, try to get a third party involved. Get some pattern interrupt into your cycle where you get an outside perspective, a grounded perspective, a mentor, someone older and wiser. Along with that comes the inner work. What are the criticisms you're making of your partner? What are they making of you? And do that projections and transference work to figure out, oh, this is the area that I can really focus on to further my personal growth. And it actually has a little less to do with my partner than I thought. We all have wounds that go deep, and sometimes it takes a partner to hold up that mirror so that we know what we can start working on. Thank you very much for your question. It is a common experience for many people, and I hear your frustration. And I hope it works out for the both of you. Thank you very much for tuning in to my inaugural episode of Engineering Love. I will be back with new episodes every Thursday morning. And if you would like to submit a question for the show or contact me, you can go to my website. It's my name, KimPolinder.com. KIMP as in Paul, OLINDER. Or you can check me out on Instagram. My account is KP as in Paul _counseling. And on TikTok, I'm KP_counseling108. And before I go, I'd like to leave you with a quote for this week. This is a quote by Carl Rogers, who was a very famous psychologist, who said, "What is most personal is most universal." Essentially, if you are struggling out there with an issue and a problem and you think you are the only person in the world who is broken with this problem, chances are your problem is experienced by many, many others. That is the essence of this platform, where your questions can be aired to the public so that other people can also benefit who are going through the exact same issue. Thank you, and I will see you again next week.